This is exciting. It's the first iteration, so we don't know where this is going to go. We just don't know how it's going to interplay with Google. Some say and speculate that it may take over. I don't think so, but I do think it's going to play a large role in the future. But we're in the present.
Technology and consumer behavior change on a dime. Google adapts and leads the charge. Your site had better keep up.
It's hard to trust something that probably hasn't been updated. It's been a static page that no one's touched in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. God knows what science has come out since then, what studies have shown possibly might contrast or contradict what the results are on that particular page.
Welcome to Personal Injury Mastermind. I'm your host, Chris Dreyer, founder and CEO of Rankings.io, the preeminent personal injury marketing agency. Before we get started, if you like what you hear, head on over to Apple or Spotify and pound that 5-star review button. And if you don't like what you hear, tell me about it in a 1-star review. I got a big hug for all my haters too. Each week we talk to the best in the legal industry. Ready to dominate your market? Let's go. Want to dominate your region through SEO? Look to Matt Dolman as a guide for what you should be doing. The Dolman Law Group is one of the most trafficked law firm sites in the US. Matt is as obsessed with SEO as I am. He was previously on PIM episode 25. We had a great conversation about SEO. Go check it out after the show. It's linked in the show notes. And today we cover the most recent updates to Google, why you should care, and what to do about them. Showing your expertise, Russian code leaks, ChatGPT, and the real threat to Google's future. We've got it all. We dive right in, and Matt makes the case for why every firm owner needs a basic understanding of SEO. Here's Matt Dolman, owner and president of Dolman Law Group.
It's almost like talking to a mechanic. If you don't speak a language and at least have a basic, at least rudimentary understanding of what they're talking about, it's very easy to sell you on things you probably don't need, or you're overpaying for things you might be able to do yourself, or really truly understand how to scale the process properly, where, should I be spending more money on Google Local and pushing the maps, or should I be spending more money on content creation? If you don't really understand how all these parts fit into, one whole sum and how it's going to really push your product forward, you're lost and you're going to get ripped off.
And a lot of times I think the SEO nerds, they try to complicate things and they talk about the super granular, but what are those basics in your mind when it comes to SEO?
The basics are content creation. I mean, content's king. You have to have content, but without backlinks, those are links pointing to your website from other sites. It's like a vote of validity in the eyes of Google. So without that, your content will never be seen anyway. So you have to start off, the basics are links and content and architecture. You have to have a flat architecture to your site. What does that mean? It means that no matter where you are on your website, you're no more than 2 clicks away from your homepage, and that's how you share the juice. The equity that you have on the homepage of your site needs to be spread to all of your internal pages. Otherwise, those pages are not getting crawled properly, and they're never going to get ranked.
Those links being the endorsements, and you're trying to win an election, you want to get as many votes as possible. Same for those links in terms of the ranking factors. And then I think a lot of times, where the architecture is you got these orphan pages that you can't access. Well, if you can't access them and Google can't crawl them, then why would Google put any importance towards those pages? There's a lot of things going on right now with Google. So we'll start with the fun ones, the Google algorithm updates. So Google Helpful Content Update, that was released in December 5th. So what is the Google Helpful Content Update? What do we know about it? And why should we care?
So that's an update to the EAT algorithm. Now they've added an extra E to it. So it used to be expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Now they added experience. So what the EAT algorithm was, it came out 2.5 years ago, and it's for what's called YMYL pages. These are your money or your life. So if you're giving advice about law or financial advice or medical advice, Google wants to really ensure that you are an expert, that you're not pushing off what's known as pseudoscience or disinformation. Again, these are I would call critical information that one does not want to rely upon in a cavalier manner without ensuring the person is an actual expert. So how does one display it they're an expert? Well, you have to show, what's your experience in that particular field? Have you been a doctor? Are you board certified? Have you published before? Have you been part of research studies? You're a lawyer. What is your experience running a law firm? Are you giving comments about commercial litigation, but you never actually handled commercial litigation cases? So if I'm going to kind of put together a proper profile to illustrate my EAT, or at least illustrate my experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness behind my name and behind my law firm's name, well, I want to highlight what is my experience in practicing law. So Matt Dolman's been practicing, and I hate talking about myself in third person, but for 20 years, been licensed in the state of Florida. He's handled X amount of cases. He has, if you want to say you're board certified or you're a member of the $1 Million Advocates Forum or you were selected legal elite, whatever awards that you could put there that will actually show that you are an expert and trusted by others in your field, let alone you should be trusted by consumers.
The thing that I see wrong a lot of times on these law firm websites is they don't even include a byline. So you don't even know who wrote it. So then how could you trust the content, right? So that's where those bios come into place. You need to put in all your as seen in, all your experiences. If you're on trusted sites, you need to reference that. The other thing that I see is there's no publish date. And the thing, in legal, I find it very important, but in medical, for example, if you ever get sick and you Google your symptoms and you see a page that was published in 2016, and you see one in 2023, I'm clicking on 2023.
Of course.
There's probably been advancements in the medical field. And likewise, like what you're saying, it's the your money, your life in legal, like a law or statute may have changed. So you need to have the most current, fresh content.
And that goes into the A and the T, the authoritativeness and trustworthiness. It's hard to trust something that probably hasn't been updated. It's been a static page that no one's touched in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. God knows what science has come out since then, what studies have shown possibly might contrast or contradict what the results are on that particular page.
Yeah, and one of the big issues that we always see is the firm owners are just constantly cranking out new content. But then the core pages aren't ever touched again. They aren't ever refreshed. And one of the best things you can do if you're a personal injury attorney listening is refresh your content. When it kicks over to 2023 and next year when it kicks over to 2024, you should update your top 200 pages. It's like a necessity in terms of ranking better in the search results.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons. I mean, one, it looks like it's been touched. It doesn't look like static. Google hates static. Two, going off of that, Google will be trained to crawl your pages more often the more often you update the page. So Google likes fresh content. We know this. And anecdotally speaking, we can show that from trial and error, having done this on hundreds of pages before, we will generally see a boost after we've updated a page.
Yeah, and Matt and I have talked a lot about this, and that's one of the reasons why we did these surveys, these roundups. So we have the Hire a Car Accident page, we have a personal injury page that has multiple attorney contributors, is because, hey, what's more trustworthy than not one attorney, but maybe 50 attorneys?
Yeah, sure. It looks like a proper resource page. It's giving the information from a number of different perspectives and individuals who all have experience in the field of personal injury law.
Awesome. So then kind of moving on, Google cracked us with another update right in December. They love to just, double hit, content, then links. They came out December 14th. They came out with the link spam update. And then what is that? And let's discuss that.
It was a way for Google to kind of decipher, and I wouldn't call it a penalty. So they're not necessarily penalizing website owners. What they're doing is devaluing specific links pointing at your website. So one could view that as a penalty. It's almost like a demerit, but you're not in like Google's penalty box. You never want to end up in Google's penalty box. So you're not ending up in a penalty box here. You're just where you could, if you get in a penalty box, you could be eliminated from search altogether. No one will see your site for quite a while. In this case, it's just evaluating certain links that are looked at as spammy, that don't add value, that are not relevant or related to the topic matter at hand.
To me, there's just so much misinformation on this topic. There's so many SEO specialists out there that just want to disavow all your links, when the truth is, if they pop it into SEMrush or they use some tool, they don't really know if the link is good or bad. So, where do you stand on the disavow file? Should users use the disavow file? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
We can go to our own personal experience. This happened, I think, in 2018 or 2019. I was sued by a lawyer referral service that I made fun of in a blog of mine, and then they started hitting us with just spammy links from whether it was hair loss supplements or dick pills, whatever it was. And it hurt our website, but it didn't really hurt us, though. We thought it was going to hurt us. It actually helped us. And for 3 to 4 years, man, those couple of pages that they pointed all the links at, really, they were ranking in top 3, top 4 in the United States. Then when this happened, we lost a little bit, but we're coming right back without a problem. No, I do not agree with disavowing links. And actually, was it Mueller?
Yeah.
It was John Mueller who actually spoke out about this on like 3 or 4 different occasions, who said, do not ever, he's a Google insider, do not ever put together a disavow file. It's worthless. If Google decides to devalue these links later on, you'll lose some equity, but why don't you wait until that happens? Because it could actually boost your site in the meantime.
Yeah, and Google's looking for leverage, right? They're a software company. They're not going to have these individuals auditing every single website. It's too cumbersome. There's too many. There was 3 trillion web pages in 2016. So they're going to do that algorithmically instead of hire a whole bunch of staff. I mean, they have the best coders on the planet. Why not just fix the code to say, oh, that's not a good link. We're just going to ignore it.
Yeah, they're never going to be able to go individual by individual, website by website. There's hundreds of millions of pages being created every single month. And as you said, there's over 3 trillion pages. So that would be not just cumbersome, it would be impossible. Pragmatically speaking, no, one should not use a disavow file. We've done that before and we've seen problems. So I'll leave that alone, prior experience, but I don't think it adds any value.
Yeah, it's easy to pop in a tool and like SEMrush and it'll say, hey, these links are toxic, but what action should you take? That's a whole different strategy as it relates to your SEO.
No, I think if you plug it into like SEMrush or Ahrefs and you're seeing like toxic links, especially SEMrush, what that should tell you is maybe I might want to improve my overall link portfolio. Maybe I want to get more stronger links. Maybe I want to contribute. Guest blogging, there's a good and a bad way of approaching that. But maybe I want to contribute on some blogs. Maybe I want to earn some media. Maybe hire a public relations specialist to get me some opportunities to speak to the media. There are ways to build really good links, but no, one should not take the drastic approach of cutting out all of the links because it actually could hurt your website.
Russia's Google is called Yandex, and it's the 5th largest search engine worldwide after Google, Bing, Yahoo, and Baidu. Late January, the code was leaked. This is why you should care.
At least there's 70% correlation between the ranking factors on Yandex and how they rank web pages on Google. Those are known as search engine result placements. So behind your ranking on a specific page, there's about 300 to 400 factors that Google's utilizing. Well, we can reverse engineer. We can figure out what some of those factors are. We can never figure out how much weight does Google actually attribute to each one. We can play around by removing certain things and then putting back in, and we learn over time how much weight there really is, but we'll never know the exact formula. What this allows us to do is look behind the lens a little bit and see what are some of the ranking factors that they've been playing around with on Yandex that actually will deliver some juice to your web page or will in turn hurt your page.
Yeah, and so the leak revealed 1,922 ranking factors. The SEO nerd, I think it's Alex Burax. The thing is, this was a leak, guys. This was uploaded. They uploaded the code. It wasn't like someone discovered this or a hack. This was a leak, and there's a whole bunch of these that Alex went through, but I think one of the interesting ones that I saw was the average ranking position across all queries. I found that really intriguing because that means if you've got guys, and we've tested this, if you've got bad content that's getting no traffic that Google doesn't favor, we've always talked about pruning your content, but this is just another sign that you just have to do that. You got to prune your content if it's not performing. Mm-hmm. It just improves that overall average ranking position. What was one that kind of stood out to you?
Well, obviously, including the keyword in the URL, we knew that. I thought it was interesting last night. I think I even sent you a text on this, so we can pretend like we haven't had this conversation already. That pay-per-click and relevant pay-per-click to the specific page you're looking at could add some incremental. They weren't sure if it was incremental or significant value to your overall SEO. And the way I look at it is it's increasing the amount of visitors on the page, which sends a ranking signal to Google, or in this case, Yandex. I think that's something that we should probably look at going forward. But then you got to weigh that as to how much is that cost going to be, and is it worth my time?
Yeah, that's where we kind of, guys, we went down a rabbit hole, because a lot of times when you're bidding on anything in the PI space, it's a significant amount of cost, per click. But I think we found a couple solutions on that, maybe some middle of the funnel, top of the funnel queries that don't typically get bid on. The other thing is I found kind of a correlation is, back in the day when we used to run these scholarship campaigns, Matt, we always saw like a giant ranking increase right when the scholarship deadline was occurring. And even though that wasn't, super relevant traffic to the law, we always saw an increase. So there's something to be said about the traffic itself kind of resuscitating the site, so to speak.
Yeah, Google sees traffic coming in, so that's a ranking signal, even though it's not to the specific pages you want it to be towards, and it's a page that doesn't really have commercial intent. it's still traffic in the eyes of Google, which makes it seem like your page is relevant to the eyes of those who have queries in the search engine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a lot of it to me is just a no-brainer, right? Crawl depth, keyword in the URL, host reliability, age of the link, UX signals like bounce rate and dwell time. We've talked about this a lot, but I did find a couple of those really intriguing as it relates to traffic, and those average ranking positions across all queries, which I personally think there is something to be said there about that. The other one, Matt, and I want to see your take is, like Yandex specifically highlighted individual sites. Like one specifically they highlighted and gave a boost to was Wikipedia. And there could be something to be said about that, where maybe Google can just manually boost a site if they think it's super trustworthy.
I think they see that the thing about Wikipedia, and it's very hard to mimic, is how robust the information is. And obviously they cite their sources. Now, the only problem is often it's user-generated content, so how trustworthy is that? So you have to weigh the two. But yeah, I think they can manually boost a page that they see is trusted upon by the masses and has robust information to share and cites their sources. So when you have those, I think then you can show that it has the necessarily experience, but no one, it's not a your money or your life page, but it has the authoritativeness and the trustworthiness you're going to look for as ranking signals.
Yeah, and we got to be careful when we link to external sources, because we're giving away trust. We're pointing a signal to them. So if you're listening and you're just linking to any citation or external website, just be really cautious about that, because they have to be very legit, very trusted sources.
But it can help you though.
Yes.
Kind of like, when you're reminded as a kid, you are the company you keep, hang out with good people. You want to kind of hang out with good websites. If you're a personal injury lawyer and you're quoting some site that the information might not be 100% trustworthy, some of it's experimental science, it's pseudoscience, you're not going to get the same boost as you will if you're citing the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic. And those are considered the epitome of modern medicine. Duke University, Harvard University, they're going to be trusted a lot more. And those signals are embedded in Google. Google knows that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's where, a lot of people talk smack about the scholarship campaigns, but that's because a lot of them, the links were from these like low-end universities, maybe, poorly curated EDU sites. But if you get a link from Yale or Harvard, it's on a legit page, that's going to be a good signal, no matter if the tactics, kind of been spammed or overused. So it's just, an example in itself.
It doesn't have to be an Ivy League school. Any decent university or college is going to have probably a very strong website, which we know as having a strong domain rating. That's what we look at. And that's wouldn't call it a made-up number, but it's an arbitrary number given by either SEMrush or Ahrefs. They have different rating formulas, but they're very similar. And what they're looking at is they're trying to reverse engineer Google's ranking factors. And it's not an exact science, but it gives you a snapshot in time of, at least will tell you, is this a strong website or is this some spammy bullshit website? And you'll know right off the bat that most of these universities have very strong websites. They have domain ratings above 70 and usually in the 80s, 90s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the final one I wanted to touch on, and just briefly, guys, we could do a whole episode on this one on its own, is this ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So where does that fit in? First, just from my perspective, Matt, it's like I asked my team when it first came out and was like actually pumping out good material, because, Jasper existed and Jasper AI, the quality wasn't there. And I asked my team, I was like, hey, are we farming without tractors? Are we like row cropping by hand? Is kind of how I was looking at it, from an output perspective, a leverage perspective. I was really excited about it. What's your thoughts on it in terms of use from an SEO standpoint?
Well, for a start, it's exciting. It's the first iteration, so we don't know where this is going to go. Microsoft's putting a ton of money and they've raised a ton of funding for this. So the future is there with ChatGPT to an extent. We just don't know how it's going to interplay with Google. Some say and speculate that it may take over. I don't think so. But I do think it's going to play a large role in the future. But we're in the present. And right now, I would not rely upon ChatGPT or any of the AI devices. You'll see Jasper. There's several different content writing devices that you can use that utilize artificial intelligence. The problem is if you ever look at it, it comes out wonky. The syntax is usually a bit off. And there are tools to check. Okay, we were always worried about when it first came out, God, students are going to use this to plagiarize their exams. And yes, you could have it write a nice thesis paper for you. But there's now tools that can check to see if you're using artificial intelligence. And just because you scrub the paper, you don't get rid of some of those signals. It's very, very difficult. You almost have to manually go through every last sentence and change around the structure and the syntax to avoid getting hit. And if you think Google's not going to utilize that technology to scrub their pages on the internet that are indexed, you're kidding yourself. They're going to. So if you're relying upon Jasper to just pump out content and get rid of all your content writers, you're making a humongous mistake. I don't know if I want to actually say that. I want people to continue doing that because it helps us. But over time, and this is this first iteration, so they're going to have multiple iterations are going to come out for ChatGPT, Jasper, and all these other AI tools. It's going to get better, and it's scary what they can do with this intelligence. But you can use it now. You can use it to help you finish sentences. You can help it, utilize it to crawl the web. But remember, I think it only goes up to a certain time period, right?
Yeah, I believe, and I'd have to verify this. I believe it's like 8 months behind.
Yeah, so you're going to rely on some outdated material, but it can crawl and at least get you ideas. It can help put together an amazing outline for you. It can do that. It can even code. But what you want to avoid doing is just relying upon it.
Yeah, no, I see a lot of uses for ideation. I see uses for translation. I was talking to Dave Abels from Chicago, and he was talking about how, a lot of times when he gets Polish content translated, it doesn't quite read right. But when he did it with ChatGPT, it was like flawless. So I could see that being a benefit. I could see using for social media, for email newsletters, a way to come up with ideas, ideation. Again, there's Google checks this. The frustrating thing is Google has been adamant. They say, hey, this is against our Google guidelines. But it's, do as I say, not as I do, because Google uses AI to write a lot of their content. So it's kind of frustrating. Mm-hmm. But I think this is something that we have to pay attention to. It's one of those, Blockbuster Video to Netflix scenarios, potentially. And I think we just have to continue to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think Google has a problem if you use AI. I think they have a problem if you use AI solely to write your content. If you're using AI as a guide to help you write more robust content you're going to have writer's block when you're writing. We all do. And you can plug something in, it'll help you finish a sentence. It'll help you structure your sentences. It will help you put together an outline. But what you do not want to rely upon is just pumping out the content and just blindly just placing it on the web. You're going to have a huge problem there. I think you're going to run into a humongous problem. I don't know what the future of ChatGPT is because we learn new things about it every single day. This is pretty exciting. They only rolled this out just a couple months ago. So I don't think it's going to replace Google. I don't know if you're ever going to have it. It's because it's not going to create SERPs. It's not going to create search engine result placements. But I think that some people will start relying upon it to answer specific in-depth questions. So will Google augment their search results to utilize this? I don't know. Google is always one step ahead, so they have the best engineers on the planet. They're not going to. I don't think they want to lose their market share to Microsoft. They're going to have to now respond. Now it puts the onus on them to make their product that much better. I think what it's going to wind up doing is raising the ante a bit and making the product better across the web.
If you are the original source and you have something truly different from a content perspective, then you're going to automatically stand out. And, there's other implications as it relates to, education and children in schools using it to write papers and things like that. Chatbots and AI may change the way Google and SEO evolve, but Matt sees the real threat to the future of Google in anti-monopoly lawsuits, especially in the European Union.
Google does monopolize the search space. We know that. And how's that going to impact Google? Are they going to split Google up into multiple factions of Google? And we can go into depth on that or another episode, but I think that's a greater threat to Google than ChatGPT. I don't think Google's going anywhere. I think this just raises the ante, and Google's going to have to utilize artificial intelligence, which they have been doing forever, but in a much different way.
I agree. And the conspiracy theorists out there are saying that the Yandex leak timing was from this to show hey, we're not the only search engine that exists. Here's this big leak to bring attention to this other search engine.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, we're going to be monitoring that closely. There's DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo's probably licking its chops and Bing and some of these other Baidu. But, we'll see how that plays out.
I've always wondered why DuckDuckGo has not acquired a bigger share of the market space. I love their commercials. I love the idea behind it. Big Brother can't monitor what you're doing on the web. That we don't sell your information.
Yeah.
But it really has not grown much. A little bit, but it's still a very incremental part of the market share Bing is still much bigger than DuckDuckGo, and Bing is only a tenth of the size of Google. And do you think DuckDuckGo is ever going to take off?
I just don't see it. Just from the revenue perspective. I mean, if they could come up with a way, I know Ahrefs is creating its own search engine. Apple's in the process of creating its own search engine. Maybe there's some inside information there about breaking up Google that they're aware of, and that's why they moved into this area. Who knows? But, I think it comes down to, speaking SEO to SEO, the more ads they put at the top and they just keep shoving down content and unique perspectives and all this original content creation, it makes it very difficult. It doesn't incentivize new content creation if you're not going to show up and get visibility.
No, the game's changed. I mean, at least in the last 5 years, we went from if you're in the top 6, 7 spaces, you're showing up on the first page. Now, depending on how competitive the search term is, they may only show 2 or 3 results on what we would consider the first page. Now, it's no longer a first page. There's just a page and it just continually scrolls. But it's really, we know what the first page is. It's without having to go too much further down. So the organic content's being highlighted. We keep losing more and more real estate, but which some people say, well, then why do I market on Google? Well, you still have to, because otherwise no one will know who you are and you're not relevant. And you need to focus more on, instead of worrying about these vanity terms like, I'm in Tampa, so people are all excited about Tampa personal injury lawyer or personal injury attorney. That never really sells you. It looks great. It tells others that you're there. It's more for ego, because that doesn't really convert. It's the long tail search terms when you're actually answering a question with your blog or your content. That's what gets people to call you up, and that's what makes your phone ring. If you invest in that, you will rank, because there's not that many people competing for those terms. If you look for a Clearwater Tampa personal injury lawyer, there's only a couple of spots for the organic content because you have so many people advertising for it. And that's why you have such a low chance of, no matter even if you show up number 1, you still have a very low chance compared to, it's just so much going on. It's so busy, that landscape of being able to convert, where you're one of one or one of just a few if you're answering a long tail search term.
Not only that, where the ads trigger for those transactional phrases and then may not for the long tail. So you may even get better placement.
Yep. 100%.
Basically, SEO and a content strategy, you're functioning like a library. The more books on the shelf, the more opportunities a consumer can go to that library to find you. So it's just more content gives you more searchability. And Matt, this has been fantastic. So if they have any questions, where can users go to get in touch with you?
I'm an open book, so email me, Matt, M-A-T-T, at Dolman Law, D like in David, O-L, M-A-N-L-A-W.com. You can reach me anytime. I always respond. If you're interested in looking at our website, it's just dolmanlaw.com, dolmanlaw.com. And you can reach us 24/7 if you're a consumer and you've been in a car accident, 833-55-CRASH.
Thanks so much to Matt Dolman of Dolman Law Group for everything he shared today. Content remains king, but how that content gets created and ranked is evolving, and you have to change with the times. You can't just slap any copy on your site and think it's going to boost your rankings. Strive for backlinks. They're that vote to big Google to rank in the search engines. And keep your house, aka your website, in order. Any page should never be more than 2 clicks away from your homepage.
And that's how you share the juice. The equity that you have on the homepage of your site needs to be spread to all of your internal pages. Otherwise, those pages are not getting crawled properly and they're never going to get ranked.
Google hates static pages. Not updating content kills your trust and authority. Think about it. If you see 2 pages with similar headlines and one from 2007 and the other from 2021, where would you click? Update your core pages every year. Yes, every year.
Google will be trained to crawl your pages more often the more often you update the page. So Google likes fresh content. We know this. And anecdotally speaking, we can show that from trial and error, having done this on hundreds of pages before, we will generally see a boost after we've updated a page.
Don't let your friends get you into trouble. Google wants your site to be trustworthy. When your content links to another site as a reference, you're voting for trust of that page, giving it an endorsement of your trust. Make sure those links are legit.
If you're a personal injury lawyer and you're quoting some site that the information might not be 100% trustworthy, some of it's experimental science, is pseudoscience, you're not going to get the same boost as you will if you're citing the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic. And those are considered the epitome of modern medicine. Duke University, Harvard University, they're going to be trusted a lot more, and those signals are embedded in Google. Google knows that.
I'm Chris Dreyer. Thanks for listening to Personal Injury Mastermind. If you made it this far, it's time to pay the tax. No, I'm not talking about your cash like Big G. I'm asking you for a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Leave me a review and I'll forever be grateful. If this is your first episode, welcome and thanks for hanging out. Come back each week for fresh interviews where you can hear from those making it rain. And remember, guys, shh, do not share this episode with anyone.